Hey, this is Pizza Dude Man Guy, and this topic was suggested by YT Chip 21, who just wants to know if my personal roster has changed now that it's been 8 or 9 months. So if you've never seen it before, here it is for reference. The idea behind it was very straightforward. It was just, what if I had got to make all of the roster decisions for Super Smash Brothers? You know, there's no obligation to add certain newcomers. There's no obligation to keep certain veterans. I get free reign of the roster. And I listed out all my thoughts, and it was 98 characters, and so I just bumped it up to an even 100 with a couple other things I was like, maybe on. And obviously, it's not realistic then. It's just for fun. But yes, it has been 8 or 9 months, and there are some things I would change. Immediately, the first thing is, I think I neglected Ring Fit on this roster. So I don't really need Andy for Advance Wars, who's there under Kamek. We can put in Ring Fit. Secondly, at that time, I was still being cautious about Meowscarada. I'm like, okay, is this really going to maybe be the big new grass starter finally? Yeah, I think so. So that scratches both of those itches for me. Have a new Pokemon, have a grass starter. So I don't care as much about having Sceptile or Tinkaton. So not only is that replaced with Meowscarada, it also gives me another free space to work with, which is something I would like now. At the time I made this roster, I was under the impression that's like, you don't really need 2 Animal Crossing characters, but in a 100 character roster, I think I can't justify that. I think that was a mistake. So, and also it would be nice if we could have more from Splatoon as well. When I made this roster, the idea was that only the original 8 were going to be the ones with the multiple characters. But of course there were exceptions to Fire Emblem and Xenoblade, and then I made an exception for Kid Icarus as well, and there's Sonic and Final Fantasy. So I was like, you know what? I don't have to be that restrictive. So what I'd like to do instead is, like I said, we have a free space in Pokemon now. I'll make another one by removing Hisui and Zoroark. I mean, it's really cool, but there's lots of really cool Pokemon. I think I'm going to go to my philosophy of, you add one new one. That new one that I'm adding, it gives me what I want. It's new, it's a grass starter, and I also gave myself Meowth by replacing Jigglypuff. So that's enough Pokemon satisfaction for me. I'm going to take those 2 open Pokemon spots now and give them to bringing back Isabelle, ideally with a more distinct moveset from Villager. Do something new like I'm planning for Ganondorf in this one, and then put in the Octoling. Because that's, besides Animal Crossing, that's another one that really should have more is Splatoon. And this is an idea for Octoling with a totally new moveset, using different equipment, now that we've also had Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. So there's some immediate things. Now, beyond that, there's some other things I've considered. I've talked about my Legend of Zelda lineup, where I do, a Link and a Young Link, Zelda and Sheik, Ganondorf and Ganon. And while I like that idea, with me totally in charge, I do like what I did here more, where it's just 8 completely different, completely separate, completely unique Legend of Zelda characters, and no second forms of anybody. Some people say it was too much, that Zelda just suddenly has this giant lineup. I'm fine with that. Zelda's a big Nintendo series. I want it to have a much more fleshed out roster in Smash than it currently has. So I'm sticking with what I've got there. I like that. The other thing was, for Mario, the 2 newcomers I added are Mallow and Geno. And my line of thinking was, I thought a lot about Waluigi, of course. It's a character I'm very interested in. But I was looking at the Mario characters I could add, and I'm like, gosh, with me in charge, for a game like Super Smash Bros., Mallow and Geno just immediately stand out to me because they have powers I want to play as in Super Smash Bros. I like these characters. I like them a lot. I might like them as much as Waluigi. But they already have abilities that I think would be great to fight as. I don't have to make one up. They already have them. Now, if I was to make more differences to accommodate for Waluigi, I would also want to include Daisy, because not only, are Daisy and Waluigi kind of a package deal in my mind, obviously that's not perfectly true, but I would still like to do that. But the other thing is, with Mario Wonder out now, I've been very into the idea of making Daisy unique using abilities from that game. I think it makes a lot of sense. For one thing, it's Daisy's first major playable appearance in a mainline Mario game, on a console at least. And also, that game is so flower themed, and the abilities you get are flower themed. So I'm like, yeah, this just makes way too much sense as a way to make Daisy a unique character. So that's absolutely something else I'd like to do. So going over the whole roster, if I was to accommodate for those changes, probably the most extra things I would consider taking out, one would be Medusa from Kid Icarus. I had her there as a way to be like, okay, well, I have, Pit as an honorary original 8 person, and I'm going to give him his villain because that's kind of the theme I was going for in this roster. I feel less obligated to do that if I'm also adding Octoling and Isabelle. Kid Icarus can just be another one that has 2 characters. So I don't feel like I need Medusa in there. And then also, as soon as I released the roster, I was immediately like, oh, maybe Goemon is kind of extra. I like Goemon a lot. If nothing else, I'm glad I put him in this roster just so more people could be like, oh yeah, Goemon. But I already have so many classic third-party icons in there. I've got Bomberman and Chrono and Ryu Hayabusa, and Ryu Hayabusa is already also a ninja. So I was like, oh, I guess I don't really need Goemon in this one. And then for third-party characters, I actually added so many third-party characters. I think it rivals, if not surpasses, what Smash Ultimate got, if we're including Mallow and Geno in there. So, yeah, I don't think it needs Goemon. I would consider removing Medusa and Goemon to put in Waluigi and Daisy, because I would really like those characters as well. Now, if I did that and I kept Mallow and Geno, like I'm saying, that makes the Mario end of this roster very, very heavy. But personally, I don't have a problem with that. So those are the changes I would make. Swap Andy for Ring Fit. Swap Sceptile for Meowscarada. Swap Hisui and Zorark and Tinkaton for Octoling and Isabelle. And then swap Medusa and Goemon for Waluigi and Daisy. That's it. Thanks for watching.